The invitation was pearl white with gold embossing, the kind that costs $3 per card. I ran my fingers over the raised letters. Mr. and Mrs. Richard Chen request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their daughter, Jessica Marie Chen, to Dr. Brandon Matthew Walsh. My daughter was marrying a doctor. A neurosurgeon, to be exact. I should have been happy. Instead, I was calculating how much the invitation alone had cost for 200 guests. $600, just for announcements people would throw away after the wedding. My name is Linda Chen, I'm 64 years old, and I was about to make the biggest financial decision of my life. A decision that would cost me everything I owned and teach me the most painful lesson a mother can learn. Sometimes the child you sacrifice everything for sees your sacrifice as an obligation, not a gift. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this really began. Richard died on a Tuesday. They say hearts don't actually break, but I swear I felt mine crack down the middle when the doctor came out to the waiting room and said those words. We did everything we could. Richard had been my husband for 38 years. We'd met in college, me a nursing student, him studying engineering. We weren't rich, but we were happy. We built a life with our own hands, a modest 3-bedroom house in Sacramento, a daughter we adored, and dreams of retirement travel we'd been saving for since our 30s. Then stage 4 colon cancer came and took him in 6 months. After the funeral, after the casseroles from neighbors stopped coming, after the sympathy cards stopped arriving, I sat down with our financial advisor and learned exactly where I stood. The house was paid off. Richard had insisted on that. There was $180,000 in savings. I had my nursing pension of $3,200 a month and Richard's life insurance of $250,000. You're comfortable, Linda, the advisor said, smiling professionally. Not wealthy but secure. You can maintain your lifestyle, travel a bit, and still leave something for Jessica. I remember nodding, thinking, this is what 40 years of careful living buys you. Security, dignity, freedom. I should have protected it with my life. Jessica came over 3 months after Richard's funeral. She brought Brandon with her, the neurosurgeon boyfriend I'd met twice. Mom, we have news, Jessica said, her eyes sparkling. She was 29, beautiful, ambitious. She'd gotten her MBA 2 years ago and was working as a marketing director at a tech company. Brandon was tall, confident, expensive-looking, old money. The kind of man who'd never worked a service job in his life. We're engaged, Jessica squealed, showing me a diamond that could have fed a family for 6 months. Oh, honey, that's wonderful. I hugged her, meaning it. When's the wedding? Next spring, April. And Mom, she glanced at Brandon, who squeezed her hand. We want to do it right, a real celebration. Dad would have wanted that. My heart clenched at the mention of Richard. Of course he would have. Brandon's parents are paying for half, Jessica continued quickly. They're contributing $40,000, and we can cover some of it ourselves, maybe $15,000. But Mom, she took my hands. Traditionally, the bride's family covers the wedding, and I know Dad would have wanted to give me the wedding of my dreams. There it was, the ask I should have seen coming. How much are we talking about? I asked carefully. Jessica bit her lip. Well, we've been looking at venues, and with the guest list Brandon's family needs to invite, his father knows everyone in Sacramento, we're looking at about 200 people. The venue alone is $25,000. Then there's the catering, the photographer, the flowers, my dress, the band. How much, Jessica? $80,000 for your half. The room spun. $80,000. Almost half of my savings. Sweetheart, that's a lot of money. I know, Mom, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime event, and Brandon's family has certain expectations. His mother is on the board of 3 charities. Everyone who's anyone in their circle will be there. This wedding is important for Brandon's career, too. These connections matter. I looked at Brandon, who smiled warmly. Mrs. Chen, I know it's a significant amount. But Jessica means the world to me, and I want to give her the day she deserves. Of course, if it's too much, we understand. We can scale back. Jessica's face fell immediately. Scale back, Brandon, we've already sent save the dates. Your mother has already started talking to her friends about it. We can't just… Honey, if your mother can't afford it, she can afford it, can't you, Mom? You have Dad's life insurance and the house and your pension. You always said you and Dad were saving for my future. And there it was, the truth I'd been avoiding. I had been saving for her future. College fund, wedding fund, down payment on her first house, all of it went to Jessica's education and her apartment when she started her career. Richard and I had always put her first. Why would that change now? Let me think about it, I said quietly. Jessica's smile was radiant. Thank you, Mom, I knew you'd come through. Dad would be so proud. After they left, I sat in Richard's favorite chair and cried for the first time since his funeral. Not because I couldn't afford it, I could, technically, but because something about the conversation felt wrong. The way Jessica had weaponized her father's memory. The way Brandon had offered an out while knowing Jessica would never take it. The way my daughter hadn't asked if I was okay, hadn't asked how I was managing alone, hadn't asked anything about me at all. She just asked for money, but she was my daughter, my only child, and Richard would have wanted her to be happy. So I decided to give her the wedding she wanted. I just didn't realize what it would cost me. My mother had died 20 years earlier, leaving me her jewelry collection. Nothing extravagant, my parents had been working-class immigrants from Taiwan, but beautiful pieces she'd collected over 50 years. Jade bracelets, pearl necklaces, gold chains with delicate charms, ruby earrings my father had bought her on their 25th anniversary. These will be yours someday, she'd told me on her deathbed, speaking in Mandarin. And then Jessica's, keep them in the family, they're our history. I'd kept that promise. The jewelry sat in a safety deposit box, waiting for the right moment to pass to Jessica. After Jessica's engagement, I sat with those pieces spread across my dining room table, touching each one, remembering my mother's hands, my grandmother's stories, the weight of generations. Then I called an appraiser. Mrs. Chen, this is a remarkable collection, he said, examining each piece carefully. The jade alone is worth $35,000. These pearls are natural, not cultured, another $12,000. The ruby earrings, $8,000. The gold pieces, given the current market, I'd estimate the entire collection at about $75,000. $75,000. Almost exactly what I needed for Jessica's wedding. If you're interested in selling, I can connect you with several buyers. Estate jewelry like this is highly sought after, especially pieces with this kind of craftsmanship. I should have said no. Should have found another way, should have told Jessica I couldn't afford an $80,000 wedding. But I kept hearing her voice. Dad would have wanted this. This is my once-in-a-lifetime day. You always said you were saving for my future, so I sold it, all of it, every piece my mother had cherished, every story my grandmother had told, every link to my heritage and my history. Gone. For flowers that would die in a week and a dress that would be worn once. The check arrived 3 weeks later, $73,000. I deposited it, added $7,000 from my savings to make $80,000 even, and called Jessica. Honey, I have your wedding fund ready. Her squeal of joy made it almost worth it. Almost. The next 6 months were a blur of dress fittings, venue tour, menu tastings, and decisions I wasn't included in. Jessica and Brandon's mother, Patricia Walsh, became inseparable. They'd go to appointments together, make choices together, laugh over champagne together while I sat in my small house, heating up leftovers and wondering when I'd become unnecessary. Mom, Patricia has such good taste, Jessica would say when she called, which was rarely. She knows all the best vendors, she's been so helpful. What about me? I asked once, trying to keep my voice light. I'd love to help with the planning. Oh, Mom, you've done enough, just paying for everything is huge. Let Patricia and me handle the details, you just show up looking beautiful. Show up looking beautiful like a guest. At my own daughter's wedding that I was paying for, the dress appointments were the worst. Jessica invited Patricia to every fitting. I was invited to one, the final one, when the dress was already altered and perfect. What do you think, Mom? Jessica asked, twirling in a $8,000 gown that cost more than my first car. You look beautiful, sweetheart. Patricia helped me choose it. She has such an eye for fashion. Patricia smiled at me, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Linda, you must be so proud. Your daughter is going to be the most beautiful bride Sacramento has ever seen. I am proud, I said quietly. What I didn't say, I'm proud, but I'm also heartbroken that I'm paying for a wedding I'm not actually part of. That my daughter treats her future mother-in-law like her mother and treats me like an ATM. But I stayed quiet. Because what was I going to do? Demand appreciation? Beg for inclusion? I'd already given her everything. What more could I offer? 2 months before the wedding, Jessica finally invited me to see the venue. She'd already booked it, of course, but she wanted to show me where the magic would happen. The Ashford estate was stunning, a historic mansion with manicured gardens, a ballroom with crystal chandeliers, and a price tag that made me dizzy. "Isn't it perfect?" Jessica breathed, walking through the gardens. "This is where we'll do the ceremony." Patricia suggested having white roses lining the aisle and orchids on every table. Can you imagine? I could imagine. I could imagine my mother's jade bracelet buying those roses, my grandmother's pearls paying for those orchids. "It's beautiful, honey. I'm so glad you approve." Patricia wasn't sure the gardens would be ready by April, but the groundskeeper assured her everything would be in bloom. "Patricia seems very involved," I said carefully. Jessica laughed. "She's amazing. She's like a second mother to me. Actually, Brandon and I were talking." She paused, suddenly looking uncomfortable. "After the wedding, we're going to be living pretty close to his parents. They have that guest house, remember? And Brandon's practice is near their house, so it makes sense for us to be nearby." Patricia mentioned she'd love to have Sunday dinners together every week. "What about visiting me?" "Oh, Mom, of course we'll visit. It's just that Sacramento to your place is like 45 minutes, and Brandon's so busy with surgeries and—" "Sacramento to your place is 45 minutes for me too, Jessica." She blinked, as if this had never occurred to her. "Well, yeah, but you're retired, you have more time." "Retired? As if my life had no value because I wasn't earning money anymore." "Right," I said quietly. "I have all the time in the world." We finished the tour in silence. As we left, Jessica hugged me quickly. "Thanks for doing this, Mom. Dad would be so happy." I drove home with tears streaming down my face, wondering when my daughter had become someone I didn't recognize. 3 weeks before the wedding, I got a call from my doctor. "Linda, we need you to come in to discuss your mammogram results." My blood ran cold. "What's wrong?" "Let's discuss it in person. Can you come in tomorrow?" I could. The next day, sitting in Dr. Patterson's office, I heard words that changed everything. Stage 1 breast cancer. Highly treatable, surgery recommended, followed by radiation. "The good news is we caught it early," Dr. Patterson said. "The survival rate for stage 1 is excellent, nearly 100% with proper treatment. We'll need to schedule surgery within the next month, then you'll start radiation." "Surgery within the next month?" I repeated numbly. "My daughter's wedding is in 3 weeks. Linda, this is your health. The wedding can—" "No," I said firmly. "It can't wait. She's been planning this for a year. I've paid for everything. I'm not going to ruin her day by being sick." "You're not ruining anything. Your daughter would understand." "Would she?" I laughed bitterly. "Doctor, I've spent $80,000 on this wedding. I sold my mother's jewelry, my family heirlooms. I've been pushed aside for every decision while paying for everything. And now you want me to tell her that her mother has cancer 3 weeks before her perfect day?" Dr. Patterson looked at me with pity that made me want to cry. "What do you want to do? Schedule the surgery for the week after the wedding. I'll tell her after, when she's married and happy and settled." "Linda, please just let me have this. Let me give her one perfect day before I burden her with my problems." So that's what we did. Surgery scheduled for May 15th. The wedding was April 28th. I had 17 days to pretend everything was fine. 1 week before the wedding, I went dress shopping for myself. Jessica hadn't asked about my dress, hadn't offered to come with me, hadn't mentioned it at all. So I went alone to a department store and found a simple navy dress that cost $150. As I was paying, the saleswoman said, "This is for a special occasion, my daughter's wedding." "How lovely. Is she excited?" "Very." I handed her my credit card, the one that now had a $5,000 balance from wedding expenses that had gone over budget. The cake had cost more than expected. The flowers had needed an upgrade. The band required a higher deposit. Jessica had called me crying each time. "Mom, I'm so sorry, but we really need this. It's just a little more. Can you cover it?" And I had, every time. "I bet you're excited too," the saleswoman said kindly. "I am," I lied. That night, I stood in my bedroom looking at my dress hanging on the closet door and realized something horrible. I wasn't excited. I was exhausted, depleted, empty. I'd given my daughter everything and somehow ended up with nothing, not even her attention. I called her, wanting to hear her voice, wanting to feel like I mattered. "Mom, I can't talk long. Patricia and I are finalizing the seating chart." "What's up?" I just wanted to hear your voice, sweetheart. The wedding's so close now. I know, I'm so stressed. Brandon's mother keeps adding people to the guest list. We're up to 215 now. That's a lot of people. Tell me about it. Oh, Mom, I meant to ask, can you come early on the wedding day? Patricia needs help with some setup stuff and the wedding planner is running behind. You want me to help set up? Is that okay? I know you're not busy or anything. It would really help us out. Not busy, as if planning for cancer surgery was nothing. Sure, honey, I'll be there. You're the best. Okay, gotta go. Patricia's calling. Love you. She hung up before I could say it back. I sat on my bed and finally let myself acknowledge the truth I'd been avoiding for months. My daughter was using me, and I'd let her. Worse, I'd enabled it by never saying no, never setting boundaries, never demanding to be treated with respect. I taught her that my love had no limits and no cost, and she'd learned the lesson perfectly. April 28th dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for a perfect wedding. I arrived at the Ashford estate at 7 a.m. to help with setup as requested. Patricia was already there, directing vendors with military precision. Linda. Finally, can you help the florist unload the centerpieces? They're in the truck. No good morning. No thank you for coming early. Just orders. I spent 3 hours carrying flowers, arranging place cards, tying ribbons on chair backs while Jessica and Patricia got ready together upstairs. At 10 a.m., I finally went to the bridal suite. Jessica was in her dress, surrounded by bridesmaids and Patricia, everyone drinking champagne and laughing. Mom, don't you look nice? Jessica said distractedly, glancing at my navy dress for half a second before turning back to the mirror. Patricia, does this veil look better pulled back or forward? I stood in the doorway, watching my daughter get ready for her wedding and realized I was just another guest. Less important than the photographer, the wedding planner, the florist. I'd paid for everything and I was nothing. Jessica, I said quietly, can I talk to you alone for a minute? Mom, I'm kind of busy right now. Can it wait? It's important. She sighed dramatically. Okay, everyone out for a second. The room cleared. Patricia gave me a look that clearly said, don't ruin this. Jessica turned to me, beautiful in her $8,000 dress. What's wrong? I just wanted to tell you. I paused. Tell her what? That I have cancer, that I'm hurt, that I feel invisible. I wanted to tell you that you look beautiful and that your father would be so proud. Her face softened. Thanks, Mom. I miss him so much today. Me too, baby. She hugged me quickly, carefully, making sure not to wrinkle her dress. Okay, I need to finish getting ready. The photographer wants to do first look photos in 20 minutes. Of course. I turned to leave. Oh, and Mom, make sure you're not in the family photos until after the ceremony, okay? Patricia wants just immediate family in the getting ready shots, and technically you're not Brandon's family yet. I stared at her. Jessica, I'm your mother. I know, but Patricia planned the photography timeline and she wants to keep it organized. You'll be in plenty of photos later, promise. She turned back to the mirror, dismissing me. I walked out, went to my car, and sat there for 10 minutes trying to decide if I should leave. Just drive away from this wedding, this daughter, this life where I didn't matter. But I couldn't, because despite everything, I still loved her, so I stayed. The ceremony was beautiful, objectively, professionally, expensively beautiful. 215 people watched Jessica marry Brandon under an arch of white roses and orchids. The string quartet played Pachelbel's canon. The officiant spoke about love and commitment and partnership. I sat in the front row, alone. Richard's seat beside me was empty. On the other side of the aisle, Patricia sat with Brandon's father and siblings, looking elegant and satisfied. Jessica walked down the aisle on the arm of Richard's brother, my brother-in-law Tom, who'd agreed to give her away. She looked radiant, happy, perfect. She didn't look at me once. After the ceremony, during the receiving line, I hugged my daughter. Congratulations, sweetheart, I love you. Thanks, Mom. She was already looking past me to the next guest. I moved down the line to Brandon. Welcome to the family. He smiled warmly. Thank you, Linda, and thank you for everything you've done for this wedding. It means a lot. At least someone acknowledged it. The reception was in the ballroom. My table 12, was in the back, with some of Richard's distant cousins I barely knew. Jessica and Brandon's table was at the front, surrounded by their friends and Brandon's family. Patricia gave the first speech, talking about how she'd watched Brandon grow into an amazing man, how Jessica was perfect for him, how excited she was to welcome Jessica into their family. Tom gave the second speech, talking about Richard and how proud he'd be. I wasn't asked to speak. During dinner, I watched my daughter dance with Brandon's father, laugh at Patricia's table, pose for photos with Brandon's siblings. She came to my table once, briefly. "Having fun, Mom? It's a beautiful wedding, honey. Thanks, okay, the photographer needs me, love you." She was gone again. I left during dessert. No one noticed. 3 days after the wedding, I had my surgery. Stage 1 breast cancer. They removed the tumor, the margins were clear. 8 weeks of radiation to follow, but the prognosis was excellent. I was in recovery, groggy from anesthesia, when my phone rang. Jessica's name flashed on the screen. My heart leaped. Maybe she'd noticed I wasn't responding to texts. Maybe she was worried. "Hi, honey," I answered, my voice weak. "Mom. Quick question, Brandon and I are looking at houses, and we found this amazing place in Granite Bay. It's $1.2 million, and we need help with the down payment. We were thinking you could do like $100,000 and then we'd pay you back over time. What do you think?" I lay in my hospital bed, with surgical drains in my chest, pain radiating through my body, and listened to my daughter ask for more money. "Jessica, I can't." "What do you mean you can't? You have Dad's life insurance money." "I spent it on your wedding." Silence. "All of it?" "Not all of it, but most of it, combined with my savings that I used. The wedding cost more than we planned." "Okay, but you still have the house. You could take out a home equity loan." "Jessica, I'm 64 years old. I'm not taking on debt." "Why are you being so difficult? This is important. We need a place to live. Patricia says real estate in Granite Bay is a great investment." "Patricia can give you the down payment then?" "Mom, that's not fair. You're supposed to help me." "You're my mother." "I am your mother," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I'm your mother who just got out of surgery." Another pause. "Surgery? What surgery?" "I have breast cancer, Jessica. I had surgery this morning to remove the tumor." The longest silence yet. "You have cancer? Since when?" "I found out 3 weeks before your wedding." 3 weeks? Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you were planning your perfect day." "Because I didn't want to burden you." "Because honestly, honey, I'm not sure you would have noticed." "That's not fair." Her voice was rising now, defensive. "You should have told me. How was I supposed to know?" "You could have asked. You could have asked how I was doing, how I was managing alone, if I needed anything. You could have asked about anything other than money." "I can't believe you're guilt-tripping me right now. I just got married. This is supposed to be the happiest time of my life, and now you're making it about you?" Something inside me broke, not my heart that had been breaking slowly for months. This was something deeper. My illusions, my denial. My desperate hope that my daughter still loved me the way I loved her. "Jessica, I need to go. I'm not feeling well." "Fine, but we still need to talk about the house down payment. Brandon's parents are going to think we're not financially stable if we can't come up with our share." I hung up. I turned off my phone, and I lay in that hospital bed and grieved, not for my health that would recover, but for the relationship I'd lost with my daughter. A relationship I'd killed with unconditional generosity and zero boundaries. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of my life. Harder than Richard's death, because at least I'd had Jessica then. Hadn't I? Or had I just been too grief-stricken to notice she wasn't really there? I went through radiation alone. 5 days a week, 30-minute sessions, feeling sicker each time. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, no relation to my doctor, drove me to treatments because I couldn't drive myself. "Where's your daughter?" she asked one day. "She's busy." Newlywed life? Mrs. Patterson, who was 80 and had survived 2 types of cancer, looked at me with knowing eyes. "Sweetheart, nobody's too busy for their mother's cancer treatment." Jessica called twice during those 3 weeks. Both calls were about money, some wedding vendors she wanted to tip additionally, some honeymoon expenses that had come up. I didn't answer. She left voicemails. "Mom, why are you being weird? Call me back. We need to talk about this house thing. Patricia thinks you're being unreasonable." Patricia thinks I'm being unreasonable, not I'm worried about you, not how's your recovery, not I love you. Just Patricia's opinion on my financial decisions. On week 4 of radiation, my oncologist asked how I was doing emotionally. "I'm fine," I lied. "Linda, cancer is hard enough without going through it alone. Do you have support?" "I have friends." "Neighbors? What about your daughter?" I started crying right there in her office, ugly tears I couldn't control. My daughter is busy being a newlywed, she doesn't know how bad it's been. Have you told her? I tried. She made it about how I was ruining her happiness. Dr. Patterson handed me tissues. Linda, this might be hard to hear, but sometimes the people we love most are the ones who hurt us deepest. And sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is establish boundaries. She's all I have left. If I set boundaries, I might lose her. Honey, I'm going to be blunt. Do you really have her now? That question haunted me for days. Did I have Jessica? Or did I have an idea of Jessica, the daughter I'd raised, the girl who used to bring me dandelions, the teenager who'd cried in my arms over boy troubles? When had that girl been replaced by this stranger who saw me as a resource instead of a person? Halfway through radiation, I met with my financial advisor. Linda, I need to be honest with you, Mark said, looking at my accounts. You're not in terrible shape, but you're not as secure as you were a year ago. The wedding took a significant chunk of your savings. Your remaining accounts total about $95,000. With your pension and careful budgeting, you'll be fine, but you don't have a lot of cushion for emergencies. What about my house? The house is your biggest asset. It's worth about $650,000 now. The market's been good. But Linda, that's your security. That's where you live. Don't let anyone talk you into leveraging it. Jessica wants me to take out a home equity loan for her down payment. Mark's face hardened. Absolutely not. Linda, you're 64, recovering from cancer, living on a fixed income. Taking on debt now would be financial suicide. And honestly, he paused. Forgive me for overstepping, but your daughter is 30 years old, married to a doctor. If they can't afford a house on a neurosurgeon's salary, that's a budgeting problem, not your problem. She's my daughter, and she's an adult who should be taking care of you right now, not asking you for more money. That night, I made a decision. I called my attorney, the same one who'd handled Richard's estate. Linda, how are you feeling? I've been better, Robert. I need to update my will. Of course, what changes do you want to make? I took a deep breath. I want to remove Jessica as my primary beneficiary. Silence on the other end. Robert, I'm here. Linda, that's a significant change. Can I ask why? I told him everything. The wedding, the jewelry, the money, the cancer, the abandonment. The phone calls asking for more while I was in recovery. When I finished, Robert was quiet for a long moment. Linda, I'm going to ask you something and I want you to really think about it. Is this what you want, or is this a reaction to being hurt? Does it matter? Either way, the result is the same. She hurt me. She used me. She sees me as a bank, not a mother. So what do you want to do? I want to leave my estate to charity, all of it. The house, the remaining savings, everything. I want it to go to organizations that help single mothers, that provide scholarships for first-generation college students, that support cancer patients without family support. That's admirable. But Linda, this is your daughter, your only child. Are you sure you want to cut her out completely? I'm not cutting her out, I'm setting her free. She doesn't need me, she has Brandon's family now. She has Patricia, who apparently is like a second mother to her. She has everything she wanted, I'm just making it official. When do you want to do this? Now, this week. Before I can change my mind. 3 days later, I signed a new will. Everything I owned would go to charity. Jessica would receive one thing, a box of photos and letters and a note I'd written explaining why. I didn't tell her. I just quietly removed her from my estate and tried to figure out how to live the rest of my life without the daughter I'd centered my entire world around. 2 months after my radiation ended, Jessica showed up at my house unannounced. I'd lost weight, 25 pounds from the cancer and treatment. My hair was thinner, I looked older, sicker, frailer. Jessica barely seemed to notice. Mom, we need to talk. She walked past me into the living room, Brandon trailing behind her, looking uncomfortable. Hello to you too, I said quietly. Don't be like that, we've been trying to reach you for weeks. I've been recovering from cancer treatment. Right, and we're sorry about that, but we have a problem. We lost the house in Granite Bay because we couldn't come up with the full down payment. Do you know how embarrassing that was? Patricia told everyone we were buying it. Jessica, no, let me finish. Brandon and I have been talking, and we think the best solution is for you to sell this house and move in with us. That way you have someone taking care of you, and we can use the money from this house to buy something big enough for all of us. I stared at her. You want me to sell my house? It makes sense, you don't need this much space, and honestly, Mom, it's getting kind of run down. When's the last time you updated anything? The kitchen is from the 80s. Your father and I remodeled that kitchen. Exactly, the 80s. Look, we found a great house with a mother-in-law suite. You'd have your own space, but we'd all be together. Patricia thinks it's a wonderful idea. Of course she does, I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. Let me guess, the house is $1.5 million, and you need my $650,000 from this house for the down payment, and I get to live in a suite and probably help with babysitting when you have kids, and somehow still contribute to household expenses. Jessica's face flushed. You're twisting this. We're offering to take care of you. No, you're offering to take my last asset and leave me with nothing. Again, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the $80,000 wedding I paid for. The family jewelry I sold, my mother's jewelry, Jessica, the only connection I had to my heritage. The hours I spent setting up your wedding like hired help. The cancer I went through alone because you were too busy being a newlywed to notice your mother was dying. I didn't know you had cancer because you didn't ask. You called me twice during my treatment, Jessica, twice, both times asking for money. You didn't visit, you didn't check on me, you didn't care. Brandon stepped forward. Mrs. Chen, I think everyone's emotions are running high. Stay out of this, Brandon. This is between my daughter and me. Jessica was crying now. I can't believe you're throwing the wedding in my face. You said you wanted to pay for it. You said Dad would have wanted that? I did want to pay for it. I wanted to give you a beautiful day, but I also wanted to matter, Jessica. I wanted to be more than a checkbook. I wanted you to include me, to value me, to see me as your mother instead of a resource. That's not fair. None of this is fair. It's not fair that I sold my mother's jewelry so you could have centerpieces you didn't even thank me for. It's not fair that I'm 64 years old, recovering from cancer, and my daughter wants to take the only security I have left. We're not taking it, we're offering you a place to live in exchange for everything I own. That's not generosity, Jessica, that's manipulation. She stood up, grabbing her purse. I came here to help you and you're throwing it back in my face. You know what? Fine, keep your house. Live here alone, get old and sick by yourself. But don't call me when you need help because apparently I'm such a terrible daughter. Jessica, wait. But she was already gone, Brandon hurrying after her, mumbling apologies I didn't want to hear. I sat in my living room, my home that Richard and I had built together, and realized something. I'd lost my daughter long before today. Maybe I'd never really had her at all. Or maybe I'd loved her so much I'd forgotten to teach her how to love me back. After Jessica stormed out, I spent 2 days in bed, crying and sleeping and wondering if I'd made a mistake. Should I have just given her the house? Was I being selfish by holding on to my security? But then I thought about my mother. About the jewelry she'd worn with pride that represented generations of struggle and survival. About how I'd sold it for a party, a beautiful, expensive party that my daughter barely acknowledged I'd paid for. I thought about Richard, who'd worked overtime for 30 years to save for our retirement, only to die before we could enjoy it. About how his life insurance, meant to take care of me, had been spent on floral arrangements and a designer wedding dress. I thought about myself, lying in a hospital bed alone while my daughter asked for more money. And I got angry, not the hot, explosive anger that burns out quickly, the cold, determined anger that changes things. I called Mark, my financial advisor. I want to set up a charitable foundation. The Linda and Richard Chen Foundation. I want it to support 3 causes: scholarships for first-generation Asian American college students, financial assistance for single mothers, and support programs for cancer patients without family support. Linda, that's wonderful. How much are you thinking of funding it with? Everything, my house, my savings, my life insurance policy, everything I have. When I die, but I want to start setting it up now. I want to choose the organizations, write the mission statement, make sure it reflects what Richard and I believed in. What about Jessica? Jessica has a husband with a neurosurgeon's salary, a rich mother-in-law who adores her, and every opportunity in the world. She doesn't need my money, she needs to learn that love isn't transactional. And if she never learns, if this destroys your relationship permanently, then at least I'll know I stopped enabling her. And maybe someone else's mother won't have to sell her heritage to prove her love. We spent the next month setting everything up. I met with organizations, visited scholarship programs, talked to cancer support groups. I wrote my mission statement. This foundation is dedicated to supporting those who give everything and expect nothing, to mothers who sacrifice without counting the cost, to students who work 3 jobs to achieve their dreams, to patients who face illness without the luxury of family support. You are seen, you are valued, your struggle matters. Every word was written through tears. 6 months after Jessica's last visit, I went for my follow-up cancer screening. Dr. Patterson's face told me everything before she said a word. Linda, I'm so sorry. The cancer is back. Stage 4, it's metastasized to your liver and lungs. The room tilted. Stage 4, how is that possible? You said I was clear. Sometimes cancer is aggressive, sometimes it hides, sometimes we just get unlucky. She took my hand. Linda, we can start treatment, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, but I need you to understand. This isn't about curing it anymore. This is about buying time and maintaining quality of life. How much time? 6 months to a year, maybe more with treatment, maybe less if you choose not to treat. 6 months to a year. I'd given my daughter everything and I had 6 months to a year left. The irony wasn't lost on me. Does anyone know? Dr. Patterson asked gently. Just you. Linda, you need to tell your daughter. Why? So she can pretend to care? So she can come around suddenly now that I'm dying? I don't want that. I don't want deathbed reconciliation that's motivated by guilt instead of love. What do you want? I thought about it. Really thought about it? I want to live my last months doing something that matters. I want to finalize my foundation. I want to meet the students who will receive scholarships in my name. I want to help set up support groups for cancer patients. I want to make sure that when I'm gone, something good comes from all this pain. And Jessica, if she cares, she'll reach out. If she doesn't, then I'll have my answer. I started chemotherapy but refused the aggressive protocols. Quality over quantity, I told Dr. Patterson. I want to be lucid and functional for whatever time I have left. I threw myself into the foundation work. I met Maria, a single mother working 3 jobs to support her kids while going to nursing school, just like I'd done 40 years ago. I funded her entire education. I met James, a first-generation Chinese-American student studying engineering, like Richard had been. His parents had died in a car accident his freshman year. He was working full-time and taking classes part-time because he couldn't afford to go full-time. I gave him a full scholarship and watched him cry with relief. I met Susan, a breast cancer patient whose daughter had abandoned her. We sat in chemo together, holding hands, 2 mothers who'd loved too much and lost everything. My daughter said I was suffocating her, Susan whispered one day, her voice weak from treatment. I gave her everything and she said I was suffocating her. Mine said I was guilt-tripping her when I told her I had cancer, I replied. We laughed. It was either laugh or scream. Do you regret it? Susan asked. Giving them everything? Every day, but also no, because that's who I am, that's who we are, we're mothers, we give. That's what we do, even when it destroys us. Especially then. Jessica didn't call, not once during those months. I knew she knew I was sick. Mrs. Patterson mentioned she'd run into Jessica at the grocery store and told her I was having health troubles. Jessica hadn't called. Patricia posted photos on Facebook of family dinners with Jessica and Brandon. Sunday dinners just like Jessica had promised. Game nights, holiday celebrations. My daughter had the family she wanted, just not with me in it. 3 months before I died, I wrote Jessica a letter. Not the one I'd already written for my will, that one was factual, explaining the legal decisions. This one was from my heart. My dearest Jessica, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Stage 4 cancer, if you're wondering. I found out 6 months after you asked me to sell my house. I didn't tell you. Not because I wanted to punish you, but because I knew you'd come around out of guilt, not love, and I couldn't bear that. I want you to know, I loved you from the moment you were born until the moment I died. That will never change. You were my whole world, my greatest joy, my proudest achievement. But I also need you to know, loving you cost me everything. And I don't mean the money, though that's part of it. I mean it cost me my sense of self-worth. It cost me my boundaries. It cost me my dignity. I taught you that love means giving everything and expecting nothing. I taught you that by never saying no, never setting limits, never requiring you to consider my needs alongside your own. That was my mistake, not yours, mine. I should have taught you that love is mutual, that relationships require effort from both people, that being a daughter means caring for your mother, not just accepting her care. Instead, I taught you that I was a resource, not a person, an ATM, not a mother. When you asked for the wedding money, I should have said, I'll contribute $20,000 and you and Brandon can figure out the rest. Instead, I sold my mother's jewelry. When you called during my cancer treatment to ask for more money, I should have said, I'm sick and scared and I need you to care about me, not my bank account. Instead, I said nothing and suffered alone. When you asked me to sell my house, I should have said, I've given enough. Now it's your turn to build your own life without my money. Instead, I got angry and pushed you away. But here's what I need you to understand. I don't regret protecting myself at the end. I regret not protecting myself sooner. The money I'm leaving to charity, that's not punishment. That's a gift. A gift to people who understand what sacrifice means because they've lived it. A gift to mothers who work 3 jobs and students who fight for education and patients who face illness alone. People like I was. People you never asked about. You're not a bad person, Jessica. You're just someone who was loved so completely you never learned what love costs. You never had to because I paid every bill, absorbed every burden, made every sacrifice. I hope you have children someday. And when you do, I hope you love them fiercely and teach them wisely. I hope you teach them to give and to receive, to take and to return, to love and to be loved in equal measure. I hope you don't make the mistakes I made. But most of all, I hope you remember this: your father and I loved you enough to give you everything. I loved you enough to stop. That was the hardest thing I ever did. Harder than cancer, harder than losing Richard, harder than dying. Letting go of you, of the idea of you, of the daughter I thought I had, that was the mountain I couldn't climb. So I stopped climbing, I sat down, and I built something else instead. I built a legacy that matters. I built support for people who needed it. I built meaning out of pain. And I hope someday when you think of me, you remember not just the mother who gave you everything, but the woman who finally learned to give herself something too. Respect, dignity, peace. I love you, Jessica, I always will. But I'm done sacrificing myself on the altar of your happiness. Goodbye, my daughter. Mom, I sealed the letter and gave it to Robert, my attorney, with instructions to deliver it with my will. I spent my last weeks at home, with hospice nurses coming daily. Mrs. Patterson visited every day, bringing soup I couldn't eat and sitting with me while I drifted in and out of consciousness. Has Jessica called? I asked one day, my voice barely a whisper. No, honey, she hasn't. That's okay, I didn't expect her to. Linda, do you want me to call her, tell her how serious this is? No, this is her choice. And I have to respect it even if it breaks my heart. On my last coherent day, Maria came to visit, the nursing student I'd put through school. She brought her 3 children. Mrs. Chen, I graduated yesterday, she said, tears streaming down her face. Top of my class because of you, because you believed in me when nobody else did. Tell me about your job, I whispered. I start at Sacramento General next month, pediatric oncology. I'm going to help kids the way you helped me. Her children gave me drawings they'd made. Thank you for helping our mama, the oldest one said solemnly. I looked at those children, at Maria's proud face, at the life I'd helped build, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. This mattered. This was worth something. This was love that built up instead of tore down. James visited too, the engineering student. I got into grad school at MIT, he said. Full scholarship. They accepted my thesis on sustainable infrastructure. Mrs. Chen, I'm going to build bridges, real ones. Because you built one for me? Make them strong, I told him. Make them last. I will, I promise. Susan came on my last afternoon, rolling her IV pole next to my bed. We held hands, 2 dying mothers who'd loved too much. My daughter called, she whispered. She said she's sorry, she said she wants to visit. Are you going to let her? I don't know, part of me wants to. Part of me knows it's too late, that she's coming out of guilt, not love. Then tell her the truth, tell her you love her but you can't go back, tell her you forgive her but you can't forget. Tell her goodbye with grace because that's all we have left. Is that what you'd tell Jessica? If she was here, yes, but she's not, and that tells me everything I need to know. Susan squeezed my hand. We loved them well, didn't we? We did, just not wisely. Would you do it differently if you could go back? I thought about it, really thought about it. Yes, I'd love her just as much, but I'd love myself too. I'd set boundaries. I'd require reciprocity. I'd teach her that relationships are 2-way streets. Do you think that would have changed anything? Maybe, maybe not, but at least I wouldn't have died wondering if my daughter loved me or just loved what I could give her. I died on a Tuesday morning just as the sun came up. Mrs. Patterson was holding my hand. My last thought wasn't of Jessica. It was of Richard and the life we'd built together and the hope that wherever he was, he understood why I'd done what I'd done. The funeral was small. Mrs. Patterson organized it. Maria came with her children. James came with his girlfriend. Susan came in a wheelchair, her daughter pushing her. Jessica came too. She sat in the back, crying silently, her face devastated. Brandon sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders. Patricia wasn't there. After the service, Robert read the will in his office. Just Jessica, Brandon, and the beneficiary organizations. Jessica's face when she heard she was inheriting nothing, just a box and a letter, would haunt Brandon for years. "This is a joke," she said flatly. "This has to be a joke." "It's not a joke, Mrs. Walsh," Robert said gently. "Your mother was very clear about her wishes. She left everything to charity, everything." "Yes. The Linda and Richard Chen Foundation will receive the house, all remaining savings, and her life insurance policy. Approximately $850,000 total." Jessica stood up, shaking. "This is revenge. She's punishing me for not being the perfect daughter." "Actually," Robert said, sliding the letter across his desk, "she left you this. Perhaps it will explain." Jessica grabbed the letter, ripped it open, and read it right there. Brandon watched her face go from anger to shock to devastation. When she finished, she looked up, mascara running down her face. She had stage 4 cancer for months, and I didn't know, I didn't visit, I didn't call. I didn't. Her voice broke. She crumpled to the floor, sobbing, the letter clutched in her hand. Brandon knelt beside her, reading over her shoulder, his face paled. "Jessica," he said quietly. "What did you do?" "I asked her for money," Jessica whispered. "While she was dying of cancer, I called and asked her for money. I asked her to sell her house. I didn't even ask how she was doing. She couldn't finish." Robert handed her the box. Inside were all the photos from her childhood. Her and her mother at the park, her and her mother at her high school graduation, her and her mother baking cookies, planting gardens, reading books. And underneath, baby hospital bracelets. Her first lost tooth, every Mother's Day card she'd ever made, every "I love you, mommy" note, evidence of a love so deep, so complete, so unconditional, it had survived everything. Until it couldn't anymore. Jessica held those mementos and finally understood what she'd lost. Not just an inheritance, not just money, she'd lost her mother. The woman who'd loved her most in the world, the woman who'd sacrificed everything. And she'd lost her before she died. Lost her through neglect, through selfishness, through taking everything and giving nothing back. "I want to make this right," Jessica said desperately. "I'll contest the will, I'll fight for the foundation, I'll donate money." "Mrs. Walsh," Robert interrupted gently. "Your mother didn't want you to make it right, she wanted you to understand, to learn, to become better. That was her final gift to you." "I don't want the gift. I want my mother back." "Then honor her, live differently, love better, give wisely, but don't try to undo what she did. This was her choice. Respect it." Maria graduated from her nursing program and became a pediatric oncology nurse at Sacramento General. She specialized in supporting families with no resources, giving them the kind of help Linda had given her. She named her 4th child Linda and told that little girl every day about the woman who'd saved their family. James finished his PhD at MIT and designed a revolutionary bridge support system that made infrastructure safer and more affordable. He won awards, gave speeches, and always mentioned the woman who'd believed in him when he had nothing. He donated a portion of every speaking fee to the Linda and Richard Chen Foundation. Susan lost her battle with cancer 18 months after Linda died. Before she passed, she reconciled with her daughter, not perfectly, but honestly. They had 3 good months together. Her daughter learned to listen. Susan learned to ask for what she needed. It wasn't everything, but it was something. On her deathbed, Susan thanked Linda for teaching her it was okay to stop sacrificing. The Linda and Richard Chen Foundation thrived, helping hundreds of students, single mothers, and cancer patients over the years. It became one of Sacramento's most respected charities, known for supporting the unseen and uncelebrated. And Jessica divorced Brandon 2 years after Linda died. The marriage couldn't survive what they'd both learned about who she was, who they'd both been. She sold the Granite Bay house they'd finally bought with Patricia's help, not Linda's, and moved into a small apartment. She left her marketing job and went back to school to become a social worker. She volunteered at the organizations Linda's foundation supported. She didn't tell them who she was, just worked quietly, helping single mothers fill out scholarship applications, driving cancer patients to appointments, mentoring first-generation college students. She didn't do it for redemption. She knew it was too late for that. She did it because she finally understood what her mother had been trying to teach her, that love isn't about taking. It's about giving, but it's also about balance. About reciprocity, about seeing the other person as human, not as a resource. She kept the box of photos on her mantle. She read her mother's letter every year on the anniversary of Linda's death. And she cried every time, mourning not just her mother, but the relationship she destroyed through carelessness and greed. She never remarried, never had children, some wounds cut too deep to risk repeating. But she lived differently. She loved better, she gave wisely. And sometimes, late at night when she was helping a struggling student or sitting with a lonely cancer patient, she felt her mother's presence. Not forgiveness, she didn't deserve that, but maybe understanding. Maybe a whisper that said, "You're learning, baby, finally you're learning." That was all she could hope for. That and the knowledge that somewhere the people her mother's sacrifice helped were building lives, raising children, making the world better. Her mother's love hadn't been wasted. It had just gone to people who understood its value. And Jessica had to live with that truth for the rest of her life. She'd had the greatest love in the world, and she'd thrown it away for money she didn't need and approval she didn't deserve. That was her inheritance. Not money, not property, not even her mother's forgiveness. Just the knowledge of what she'd lost and the hope that she could help others avoid making the same mistake. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was all she had. Did this story touch your heart? Which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. This story is about a truth many of us don't want to face. That unconditional love without boundaries can destroy both the giver and the receiver. That teaching someone they can take everything and give nothing doesn't make you a good parent, it makes you an enabler. Linda loved her daughter enough to give her everything, but she loved herself enough finally to stop. That's not cruelty, that's wisdom. If this story resonated with you, if you've been the Linda in someone's life, or if you've been the Jessica who woke up too late, share your story in the comments. Your truth might save someone else from this pain. You can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep creating content like this. Thank you for your sweet support. I look forward to reading your comments on this story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. This is Auntie Rose reminding you. The greatest love sometimes means saying no. The deepest sacrifice sometimes means protecting yourself. And the hardest lesson we teach is that love must flow both ways or it drowns the giver. Some people will only value you when you stop being available. Some children will only understand sacrifice when they can no longer take it for granted. Teach them early, love them fiercely. But never, never love them more than you love yourself. Until next time, darlings.